Pandora's where we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. I'm your host, Asher, and today we get to talk about the theme failure. And we got an expert in the room, Mitch. She says she's an expert at failure. And we get to chat about some of those experiences we both have around failures. And Mitch, if you don't mind, just share with us a little bit about where you're hailing from, what you specialize in, who you being a hero to, how you adding value to the world. Oh, we can keep going on, right? But I'll let you go and tell them.
I love it. It's almost like a jam. I was like about to start dancing to it. It's like you got some rhythm there.
Yes.
I like it. I might have to add it to my podcast. Well,
Hmm.
like I said, my name is Mitch. I'm Mitch Blackford, and I live just outside of Fort Worth, Texas. I'm in a little small bedroom, sleepy community. It's all country. I was telling Asher, we got cows. We have a couple of stoplights. It's very, very exciting here.
Very
But
excited.
what I'm up to in the world is I have a podcast called Fun Rich Mom. And I'm all about helping moms rediscover and redefine themselves because a few years ago, I've got a 5 and 6 year old. They're both little girls. A few years ago during COVID, we happened to be building a home. We were in this rental. All this stuff happened. I had a 1 and 2 year old. I went from traveling around the world, coaching people, I mean, international to, being very excited to tell my husband that I changed 5 poopy diapers that day. And so I kind of had a crisis of identity, like what happened? And one thing that I've learned in traveling the world and talking to people is that, you're not unique in your experience. You definitely bring a uniqueness as who you are and the
Hmm.
stories that you have, but we share common experiences and feelings around it. So basically, I knew if I was feeling alone and I was feeling like I didn't know who I had become, like I used to be this cool chick that, can hold a conversation with an adult, and now I couldn't, I knew that there was someone else out there. So that's my mission today is I just joke around, mom may be the name you hear the most. It's not the only name that matters.
Wow. I love what you use the word unique. I'm a pick on that word a little bit before we get going. Unique,
Go
the
for
word
it.
unique. Because back in 2022, I was thinking about the conversation about like we gotta treat people equally, right? Equal. And I was thinking about I was like, actually that's I don't think we're not equal. None of us are. I think we're unique, but we're not equal.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, I need to find a word that's gonna like connect the two. So I came up with this word. It's called unique.
Unique. Well,
So I would say treat me uniquely. But the idea was like, okay, we are equal spiritually, but we are unique physically, right?
sure.
So then we're unique. We're unique. So
Yeah.
treat me uniquely. So
Uh,
that's what came to mind when you mentioned the word unique just now.
well,
Yeah.
I always remember I had a friend who he was a speaker and he used to joke around. He's like, I know I'm not unique. I know, I mean, to my mother, I'm a special snowflake because there's never a copy of a snowflake, right? They're all unique. And I just thought that
Hmm.
was so funny. It's like, yeah, to my mom, I'm this special, unique little snowflake
Hmm.
that there's no other copy of in the world. But really, when it comes down to it, I can tell you about some of my woes and some of the things I've been through. And there's going to be so many other people who are like, yeah, me too, me too.
Hmm.
And so, but that's what connects us. That's what makes the human experience so amazing and special because if we didn't have anything to bond us, then there would be no empathy, there'd be no connection, right? We'd feel pretty lonely in the world because there's no one else that can say, I've been there, I've done that, let me help you get out of it.
Hmm.
So it doesn't bother me that we share common experiences. In fact, it gives me a sense of belonging.
Hmm. And speaking about common experiences, and what's more common in failure, or theme of the conversation that we all have common failures. I
Mm-hmm.
would think we all got some kind of failure that we can bond with. I was talking about like you was talking about bonding. I was like the thing that people have a conversation around, oftentimes, which I kind of base my podcast on. We have a conversation about first time experiences. We have
Mm-hmm.
a conversation about our failures. We have a conversation about our fears. We have a conversation about our needs and our victories. We often have a conversation around those. So if you can think of all of those things that happen in your life, oftentimes they're gonna fall into those five containers or more, right? But
Yeah,
then we come back to failure itself. Like we all got some kind of failure experience that we would love to share, and we're gonna talk about them.
for
And
sure.
some people are embarrassed about them. Some people are excited about them. I'm one of the folks that I'm excited about my failures. I love talking about them because at one point they cost me a lot for me to acquire them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I paid a lot of price for that failure. I'm not gonna just give it away for free. right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not just going to leave it hiding in the closet. I'm going to talk about it. I worked hard to get that failure. So
Exactly.
what are some of
Exactly.
your major ones that you would like to talk about or share today that people might be
Oh,
like, wow.
Chucky. There were so many. I think if I went back in time, we kind of progressed forward through the trail of fail.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big ones was, and I think a lot of women could identify with this, and particularly when you're younger, is I was always, I'm 5'9", so I'm taller
Mm-hmm.
than a lot of women on average. And I don't know why, but my best friends were always these short, petite, beautiful, buxom, like all the guys are lining up to date them type of girls. And I'd
Mm-hmm.
come along and I'm like the Jolly Green Giant behind. Oh, 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 hey, look at me. At least that's kind of what I felt like in comparison to them. So I had this really skewed perspective of my body. And I thought that I was just this, big, overweight, too tall. And so what ended up happening is I ended up creating an eating disorder around it. So, failure number one was not recognizing that just because I don't look like someone else doesn't mean that I'm not beautiful and have value and that someone else may find me attractive. And
Mm-hmm.
it really, I can't even tell you like how many women I've come across that have some sort of issue with food and around food, whether it's compulsive overeating, which I did, or bulimia, which I also did, or anorexia, which I can never get behind because just I really like the food. But or whatever it is. And so for this couple of years of my life, I remember I gained 25 pounds in 1 month
Mm-hmm.
because it was just literally, I'd gone from at the time, let's see, I had been working at a grocery store and this was in Northern California. We would actually carry you out to your car, unload your groceries, and then we'd always have to run back in. And so you're moving a lot. So I could get away with eating a lot more and I was always active and running and stuff. Well, I ended up temping at this medical follow-up division for a hospital. And literally all you do is sit there all day in a cubicle and type. And there's food everywhere. Like every cubicle has candies or donuts or this or that. And so if you get up and, oh, I'll just, and then you go home and you're like, that was a really depressing day. I'll just feel better by eating. And so, yeah, literally I gained 25 pounds in 1 month. And it was kind of like, Shuki,
Mm-hmm.
this is a problem. I can't hide this anymore. And people are asking questions and I don't know how to respond. And of course, when any time people can point out your skeletons in the closet, then it's like, because you don't want them to know. It's like, oh, I had this nasty little habit that I was able to get away with in secret. But now the evidence is so clear that people are asking questions and I don't know how to respond to that because I can't tell them what I do. What would they think of me? And, that's, I think, probably the biggest thing around our failures is we feel so ashamed around it. I can't tell anybody this because what would they think of me? And so then we hide it and we make it worse, So what would I do? Go eat more food, go, whatever. And so I made the cycle even worse because I thought, instead of revealing myself to someone that I trusted, right? It's not like you have to go around whenever you have a failure and tell the whole world, by the way, I just really sucked at this.
Mm-hmm.
It's you find that person that you have trust with, that you have rapport with, that that you on person soul to. But thanks for aimed up. I was I was in college so that they would do therapy sessions for free. So I was like, dude, I'm going. And I went to see a therapist there and I mentioned this to her and she says, well, have you ever gone to Overeaters Anonymous? And here's the other thing that we do with failure is I automatically made up a story that I was going to go there because even though I gained 25 pounds, I wasn't like obese and I was still athletic enough. And in my mind, if I went there, it was going to be very heavy women that, were like crazy eating. And I was going to walk into the room and they were going to look at me and I was going to tell my little story and they'd be like, get out of here, you little stupid girl. You don't know what pain is. You're just trying to fake it and get attention. That's the story that I played in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And because again, when we're in that failure mode, we have that zoom in perspective. Everything is kind of like, we can't see past ourselves. And so fortunately, I got over myself. I went there and I only went one time. But literally what happens is they go around the room, each person tells their name and they share some of their story, what they're going through. And each person that spoke told a piece of my story. So like I said, that connection, that I've been there before, and literally in that moment, and it's so funny because I'd even studied eating disorders and did a paper on it one semester in college, but it's clinical. Versus in this room, I'm with real life people sharing that story, telling pieces of me. I never went again. I lost 20 pounds the next month because I was able to know I wasn't alone. And if other people were in this, then maybe I was okay. I wasn't such a freak after all. There wasn't something wrong with me. I just needed to find a better way of coping. And if they could do it, I could do it too. And so that was failure number one in life.
I'm gonna go a little bit because what popped up for me when you was talking, I was wondering, what was the age at the time, by the way?
I think I was around 20. I was
In your
around 20.
20s? Was it
Yeah.
20?
Yeah.
But when did you believe you was beautiful?
Oh, you mean before that or after?
Over
Or
your lifetime,
anytime?
like whenever time in your lifetime, yeah. When do you believe like deeply that you was beautiful?
So I think that's a fun question. Now I have to actually think about that. I think growing up as a kid, I had, my mom always told me, "You're so beautiful." My aunts and uncles, my grandmas, "You're beautiful." Your familial connections. "You're the cutest little thing." Look at those jumping cheeks. And but I don't think beauty was really a concept that I totally understood until, you start getting into those teenage years and suddenly you're watching shows and you have the posters and you're feeling like, oh, hey, he's kind of cute. Oh, but who's looking at her? Why is he looking at her and he isn't looking at me? And so those insecurities start to build up and we create that shell. I would say it's been an off and on game, to be honest. It wasn't right after, when I lost the 20 pounds, I felt better about myself. And I started to have confidence in myself and belief in myself. But there were times where it was just like, okay, I got it. And then there were times where it was just like, oh, just nothing. Look at and if I had to pinpoint it, ooh, you got me, Asher. I don't know. I maybe there's been different concepts of beauty and confidence within that through each period of my life. I could say it. Like I said, in my 20s, there were times where a certain outfit, certain haircut, good day, felt good, but wasn't 100% like, I know I'm beautiful inside and out. This is me. Getting into my 30s, there I had some transition in my life as well. I kind of hit probably in my mid 30s is when I finally kind of got into that stride, and mid to late 30s where I finally just let go. And I was like, even if I wasn't at the weight that I wanted, even if my haircut looked bad, I could look at myself and be like, I like what I see. I am good with what I see. Like, this is a body that I appreciate because it allows me to do the things that I want in this life. And I like to do a lot of things. And yeah, sometimes it's a klutzy body. My husband's always like, where'd this bruise come from? I don't know. But at the same time, it has allowed me to do so much and it doesn't fail me. And so I gained the appreciation that this body to me is beautiful because it's mine. It's the one that I have, and it's given me the life that I have had physically. You know what I'm saying? So that's, I would say, mid to late 30s.
Mid to late 30s. No, there's a reason why I'm asking this question actually, because
Yeah.
I I have my daughter about to be 18, and she's actually for different things. And you mentioned you have two young girls too, and I was trying to figure out like when do they actually believe that the way they was made, that was a beautiful design, doesn't matter what design it was made in. Like this, your design was beautiful, it was a beautiful design. And once you believe that, oh, this particular uniqueness about me is beautiful. Like when do that happen for them? Because I mean, as a man, I mean, like when I was growing up, like I mean, I used to get like my friends just make fun of all of my features, right? Until I got used to like you make fun of this, make fun of that, and eventually like it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
But then we don't think about like the beautiful thing, right? But I know women do, like they want to hear that word.
Yes.
I don't want to
Oh,
believe it. So I'm curious to know because I see difficulty with teenagers or the young in the young 20s. Like it's very hard for them to like, yeah, I'm actually beautiful. And I
yeah.
believe it. Like you hear it, but when do you actually believe it yourself? That
Yeah.
part gets me.
I think it takes some growing and getting comfortable with your body. And I think, those teenage years, those early 20s, you're so trying to fit in. It's
Hmm.
all about finding your group, finding your people, finding your family, right? There was that long period of time, which, was like another failure where I was single for a long time. And so it's that search for, okay, I have a family, but I want a family of my own.
Hmm.
And who is that person that's going to find me beautiful inside and out? But at the same time, we put so much focus on I got to have the package looking good, or else he's not even going to take a second look, right? Look at everything that we see all the time. All of the media is showing you just, you got to look good. You got to be this. I mean, how many filters? If you look through social media, sometimes you're just like, I don't even know if that's their real face.
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
So, it's easy to get lost in that. And unfortunately, I don't think everyone needs to hit rock bottom with it. And I've met some women, even when they were younger, they just were able to put everything aside and recognize who they are. Personally, the women that I met that were like that were just fiercely in love with Jesus. And I think that that makes a difference
Hmm.
because they put the world aside and all that judgment, and they knew that they carried their value. And that was something that was powerful to me. And maybe that's what made the difference for me as well, because that's about the time that I became a fierce lover of Jesus as well.
Hmm.
So before that, it was a whole different story, whole different ballgame. And I was susceptible to what was out here versus what's in here.
Hmm. I'm just gonna keep whatever pops up for me when you talk. I'm just gonna say
Yeah.
it because I think this told me. So you mentioned like when you start loving Jesus, right? I remember I used to go. I when I first, because I'm in Connecticut right now, that's where I'm alien from right now. And before that, I was in Colorado. I was in the military. Did 22 years in the military. Then I retired from it. But when I came back home, I was going to church. 'Cause I was going to hang out with my mom because that's the place you go at. So I was like, let me go hang out with my mom for a little bit. So I
Uh-huh.
was going to church with her just to go there because I'm not a church person, but I go there just to hang out with her, right?
Sure.
I was going there, and the first Sunday I went there, I was watching because I was like, man, I haven't been in church in so long. Like, oh my God, I'm in church. So I'm sitting there, I'm just checking out the scene, just listening. The next week I went there, I listened. So the third week, the question pops in my mind, like, why do people go to church?
Yep.
They're like, why do they go to church? And the answer that showed up for me after I left, I was thinking about it. I was like, it seems like they go to church because they want to get to know God.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, what they're trying to do is get to know themselves. Because the more you know about God, the more you know about you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are the embodiment of God, then the more you love God, the more you love yourself. Right? The more you know about God, the more you learn about you. And I was like, so that's the reason why people are lost. They don't understand themselves, so they come to church trying to find a little bit more about them. But they're
Mm-hmm.
they're saying they're learning about God, but they actually learn about them. And after that, I was like, okay, no, I get it. So then loving yourself or loving God is the same thing
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. I get, yes, to a certain extent. But yeah, and that was a whole journey for me. Like I said, my life before that was very different. And I was very like, if you dragged me into a church, I would come out with a lot to say about it. And none of it was nice.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just had a series of people over the years that just kept dropping seeds, dropping seeds, dropping seeds until, you just, when you're ready, you're ready. And when you're open, you're open. It doesn't matter whether that's following God, whether that's figuring out that you're beautiful, whatever it is in your life, there comes a point when you're ready, no matter how many times you've heard it before,
Mm-hmm.
finally you hear it. Someone said it a million times, but you don't hear it until you get to that threshold where it's like, ah, I got it now. I got it. And then you can take action on it. So, yeah, so it took me a long time to get to that point where I was ready to hear it and to find out what this journey was. But I was so intrigued, like I said, and sometimes it's even weird to be like, they were on fire for Jesus. It's weird. It's a weird way of speaking to me. But at the same time, it was true. Like some of the most beautiful women that I know that I'm just like, I'm sure they have their days because they're
Mm-hmm.
human, they're regular people. but I know that they had this just beauty about them and they felt good and they radiated it. The common denominator was always that, always.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so it was a pattern that I recognized. I'm like, well, that's really interesting. And that wasn't the reason that I ended up converting and becoming Christian. There was a lot more to it than that, but that's just something where I noticed that pattern also happened in my life. As I was opening up and letting him in, things started changing in my life where I gained this confidence that I didn't have before, that I gained this, relax. Before, when I was carrying so much with, my journey of failures, we could continue on with other things that happened before that time as well. So that just was, like I said, the pattern that I recognized. And in fact, as you asked me, what just came to mind?
No, perfect, actually. And let's we're gonna tie the word confidence because you mentioned it with failure. Because I think at the end of the day, it is our most sacred duty to protect our confidence. That's our sacred duty to protect our confidence. I think that's might be all the who's trying to get on my podcast right now. Yeah, we got somebody on the podcast.
Oh, my husband? Is that what we said?
Tona. I don't know who that is.
Oh, not my husband.
Yeah, but our most sacred duty is to protect our confidence every day.
Mm,
And that oftentimes relate to how we feel about ourselves. Because when you
mhm.
don't feel great about yourself, automatically your confidence is like, oh, it's at 80%, it's at 70%, yeah, 60%. They keep dropping. You gotta
Yeah.
find a way to protect and build it back up. So, being through your failures, how hard was it to protect your confidence?
Oh gosh. Well, through the failures, I had no confidence, obviously. Well, so to move a little further into the story and add more failure to the fire, I had moved down to LA because I wanted to become a big movie star. Go
Mm.
figure.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, here I am in LA comparing myself to all of these other leading ladies that are tiny, petite, short, and jolly green giants still. And so I ended up moving down there, wanting to be a big actress. Instead, I ended up a bitter broke bartender
Mm-hmm.
and just, kind of just getting by. I was single for 8 years. And when I say single, that doesn't mean I was dating around. That means, like, the way I like to put it is like, have you ever seen a tumbleweed blowing through the desert? It's just lonely. It just goes and you're like, oh, poor thing. Wonder when it'll disintegrate. That was me. I was just like, there was nothing going on. And then I had gone into business with a friend and we took out a loan in my name and then we declared bankruptcy. And I was left with the debt by myself. She walked out of it and I had to carry it all on my own. And so that's finally when I got to the point where I was like, I can't carry this anymore. And ooh, that was a big one too. I thought I was the most horrendous person in the world. Like,
Wow.
I was a failure. I can't believe I've even contemplated this, what would people think of me if I took on debt? I should do whatever it takes to pay it off. And all of these things. And yes, shouldn't take in debt in the first place, right? If you do debt, you need to pay it off. And at the same time, bankruptcy is also a tool. And I had just taken on way too much with this other person who walked away without
Mm-hmm.
taking on any of that responsibility as well. And I couldn't take it. Finally, it was like, this is my only option. And I remember one time I used to live in LA with my brother. And I was sitting on the couch to him and I was like, who's ever gonna want me? I'm fat. I'm broke. I'm just a bartender.
Mm.
Just like your big pity party. I've failed in business. I can't get anything going. And so my confidence was just, it was wiped for a long time, probably most of my 20s, like a full
Mm.
decade there. And like I said, when you're in it, it's hard to see anything outside of it because you're just so focused on the problems. And anytime I find myself getting into a pity party these days or feeling like, oh, I'm overwhelmed or we have all these problems, the first thing I know to do is like, okay, stop, take a breath, zoom out. Okay, what's actually going on? Yes, is this an issue? Sure. Is it the end of the world? No. Is it a pain in my butt? Sure. Can I figure out a way out of it? Yeah, other people have. I have resources, I have tools, I have, go get it, spirit. We'll make something happen. But this is not the only thing that's happening right now. And if I let it be the only thing, then I'm taking all of this other beautiful stuff that's happening around me. And, I may as well just chuck it all and be like, you're not worth anything because the only thing that's worth my time is my problem.
Mm.
And so I had a friend, he pointed out, like, if you put your hands to your side and you look at your left hand, like, go ahead, you put your hand, you look at your left hand, this is your problem. Okay. And you're just thinking problem, problem, problem. Well, in the meanwhile, all this great stuff is over here in your right hand. It's like, pick me. Hey, I'm here. But you're so focused over here, you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was for a good decade. And so because of that, whatever you focus on, you get more of. I'm sure you've experienced that, right? So I got more of the problems, more of the this, more of the single, more of the guys rejecting me, more of not getting the roles that I wanted, more of being broke, more of not experiencing success in this network marketing company that we had ventured into. All of this stuff, just more. And so that's all I saw. So the confidence definitely just took a back seat. And it wasn't until someone finally introduced me to personal development where I was like, what's that? What is this thing you speak of that you seem so happy about? And I think it was Landmark Forum was the first personal development event that I ever went to. And my mind was just blown. I was like, what? You can think outside of the box. You can get out of your problems. Your problems don't define you. They're just a part of your journey, and you can actually make them your message. They can be something that sharpens you and hones you and makes you greater and stronger. What a weird concept. And that's when the confidence started to creep in. It was like, oh, hey, I've been here in the background. Remember when you were a kid and you just did whatever and people were like, oh, you're great. And you didn't care and you just had fun. It started peeping its head up, like, let's have some fun again. And for me, confidence is definitely tied to playfulness. I love playfulness. And I can tell when things are not going super well because I'm not playful. And if I'm playful, we're rolling. We're on fire.
I'm sure somebody might be curious right now, like I am. How did you play your way out of that bankruptcy?
How did I what?
Play your way out of the bankruptcy.
How did I play my way out of it? Well, at that time, I didn't play. In fact, it was, like I said, it was one of those skeletons in the closet for a while. In fact, so I declared bankruptcy. And what was funny is bankruptcy is not cheap to do. So then I had to like work extra and figure it out to make up the money so that I could declare bankruptcy. And I had a friend that knew, and it was probably, I don't know, 3 years later or so like that. I had moved to Texas from LA and I was living with her. And we had another mutual friend that I guess was talking about some issues. And she's like, oh, you should go talk to Mitch. She declared bankruptcy. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, you may as well have stuck a dagger in my chest. How could you betray me? How could you? What?
You sure you're not acting out the scene right now?
I know, right? But this is like how I felt. Like it was really like, you just told the most horrible thing about me. And now what if it gets out and what will people think? You know, the fact that I had done that was hard enough for me to make that decision. And I had been so good operating on cash, you know, and making sure I was responsible. But at the same time, I didn't want people to know because again, in my mind, I had become this horrible person because of it. And so it took me a long while to get over it where I finally, you know, like I finally got to the point where it was like, I did it. It's a part of my story. Is it my most exciting part that I'm proud of? No. Does it have to be something that I'm proud of for me to be like, hey, I went through this too? No, you know, I'm not proud of the fact that I had an eating disorder and that I couldn't handle my own emotions. So I had to go to food for it. I'm not proud of the fact that I didn't have what it took to go out and really make myself an actor. I just went down there and I started bartending. I didn't do the work because I had my tail between my legs the whole time. I was full of excuses. I am not proud of the fact that I have lived so much of my life out of excuses. And the results during that time shows. And at the same time, guess what? Now I got out of it. I found a way where it's like, oh, you don't have to live in it though. And if you can get out of it, now I can relate to someone else who says, oh my gosh, I just went through bankruptcy and I feel horrible. Can you really get out? Yeah. Yeah, you can get out of it and life can get pretty darn good again. And sometimes it takes, well, it does. It's going to take some effort. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some time. And it is worth all of those steps. And so now, like I said, I share it with you and I can be playful about my reaction because that was true. But it's like now looking back at it, I'm like, oh, can you imagine? And so the playfulness is now in the, I get to help someone else realize that they're not this evil, horrible person because maybe they've been through that experience too. And that just makes me feel like, ooh, all right, good. I'll go through it again if I get to help someone else feel like they're not alone. I mean, not in the future. I don't want to go through it in the future, but in the past.
You can revisit the memory and go back there and
I can
examine
revisit
it.
memory. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was okay to go through it, because also the other thing that we got to look at, just like, and I'm sure you've said this a million times on this podcast, every time you talk about failure, but your failures lead up to who you are today. If I haven't have gone through all of those different experiences, all those different failures, then I don't get to be this person that I am today. I don't get to be the mother to my babies to show them, hey, you know what? Messing up is part of the process. It doesn't mean you stay down. It means you just pop right back up and say, all right, next one, but let's make it a better one. Next one, let's make it a better one. And you keep climbing that failure ladder up to the top. No one's made it to the top without failing. But I can tell you, you sure don't make it to the top if you don't ever fail or try. And so now I have these experiences, like I said, that have changed my perspective, that have given me that inner confidence, that have given me that state of grace, that gives me compassion for other people, that makes me excited to say, ooh, you've been there. Come on, I got you. Let's do this. I don't get that with all of this stuff if I never went through it, right? Who wants to hear from someone that's like, oh yeah, my life was perfect. I came out sipping a martini out of a gold glass. The butler gave me grapes. I've never had a day of worry in my life. It's like, okay, well, la-di-da, thank you. Next. Versus when you hear from someone that's like, oh, they went through what I went through. Okay, now I want to listen because now I know there's a way out.
Those folks are considered oftentimes the wise folks in society, in the villages, in the community, in the family, the people that have had a lot of experience. So when I look at the term failure, this is my definition of failure. Failure is simply a new experience. So if you are a person that you've gifted so many new experiences, that make you a person that can connect with a lot of people because you have a lot of experience to share. So then, we love talking about success, which is great to talk about success, right? But how I see success is like a cycle. It continues to turn the same way over and over, right? You hear the saying that you would do the same thing and expect a different result. Like the definition of insanity or whatever, right?
Insanity,
But yes. But here's how I look at it also. Because it is say you're insane if you expect to do the same thing and expect a different result, which you would never. Just like same thing, if you could do the same thing over and over, you generate the same successful result, it's gonna do the same thing. Same thing, do the same thing, gonna define another result, it's gonna be the same thing. So it's always a guaranteed result by doing the same thing. That's pretty much what it is. It doesn't matter what, you might not like the result, but you're gonna get a result, the same result, doing the same thing. But what failure is breaking that cycle. Failure is failing at that successful cycle over and over that's happening. So for you to stop having that same cycle, you gotta fail at that cycle to get a new experience. And that's what failure is to me. So I value failure. It's just that we don't have enough resources because oftentimes in life you have the cycle and the failure. If you have too much new experiences, you get overwhelmed. But if you have the right amount of balance of the experience and the cycle, you feel like life is like, okay, I can handle this. And some people have a lot of cycle, they get very bored. They need some failure. They need some new experiences. Some people got too much new experience, feel overwhelmed. Like, I need a cycle. So it's how you balance it too. So I appreciate failure and success, but I know success is a cycle and failure is just new experience. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you. And here's the other thing with failure too, because sometimes you do get into that cycle where it's like, man, I am just hitting my head against the wall over and over and over and over again. And I keep trying different things. And it just seems like I'm not getting any movement. I've been there. I'm currently there with some of the stuff that I'm trying to do. And it's like, okay, step back. What's going on? Redirect. But during that time, here's the thing is you still have to recognize in this failure, okay, there's something here that I can pull out of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's something here that I need to pull out of it. I don't just be like, oh, I failed. Okay, let me get up and try something different. No, no, no. Okay, this didn't work. I may have failed in this spot. Let me pull out of it and say, what didn't work? Why did it fail? What's the lesson that I get to take out of this one so I can redirect for the next try? And now the failure is something that was worthwhile versus doing the failure and never learning from it. Well, then, yeah, it wasn't worthwhile and you're going to feel defeated because you never felt any sort of forward momentum because of it. And you can create momentum out of failure as long as you keep going back and dissecting it. Okay, what worked, what didn't work? Okay, don't do that part again. Eating 5 tubes of cookie dough doesn't work very well for the body. Don't do that one again. Maybe talk to someone. Oh, that one worked really well. Or whatever it is, right? What little piece can I gain? And even in success, there's the saying, if it ain't fixed, don't if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix it. Mm-hmm.
If it ain't fixed, don't broke it.
But you also mentioned something that's key too. Like we say, you try something, it didn't work. Like every time you do something, something worked.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't work the way you wanted to work, but that thing that failed, it worked in a direction that you maybe don't expect or don't intend, but it worked. So you got to figure out. So it worked, but what just worked, and maybe that's something valuable later on
For
that you
sure.
can use. And oftentimes we don't examine our failure because like, oh, I just got a new experience. You can do something with it later on if you just really examine it and document it. But the thing you're trying to make work, like you just keep going at it until you find something that actually works in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, like you said, document it. That's a really big one. I love to write. I love to journal. And I've had times where I've been really great at it. And I have times where I haven't at all. And the times when I haven't at all, I get so frustrated because I wish I could go back and dig into my mind and what was going on exactly at that time. Because, after a certain amount of time, when you have peak emotional states, whether they're positive or negative, it leaves that impression on you for a long time. You can usually go back to that memory and in that moment. But a lot of, like, say, for example, those 8 years where I was single and working in LA and not getting my dreams. So there were moments that were high emotion that I can go back to. Yeah, that's like. But on a day-to-day basis, it's like, I would love to go back and just kind of dissect my mind a little bit and see what I had going on there, because I'm sure that there's so much that I could pull and find. And I know that there were moments that I still had, like, for example, I used to live in Sherman Oaks, and this is in the Valley in LA. And there was this, I was in an apartment complex, but right behind the apartment complex, there was this, like, I called it Leave It to Beaver Cleaverland, or, because it was just this beautiful neighborhood that looked like it was straight out of the 1950s and just perfectly manicured yards and, a dream for me living in the apartment and struggling to get by. But I would go running there and I'd just listen to music. And I remember that even in the midst of all of these lows, all of the things that were happening, for some reason, there was a recipe for success in me there, because I would be running and I would have this feeling of impending greatness. Like, have you ever heard of the feeling like, ooh, a feeling of impending doom, like something bad is coming, right? But for some reason, when I would go running, I just, like, there was something where I'm like, there is greatness yet to come. There is greatness yet to come. And it happened often enough. Obviously, I've created a memory around it, but I wish I could go back and I had some journal where I could get a little more detail about what else happened in that day. What else was I thinking of? Why did I have those moments? And maybe I could recreate it some more and get even more feelings of impending greatness. But it was an awesome feeling, even in the midst of living life where I wasn't confident and I felt like I was failing all the time. So yeah, documenting things I think is huge. And then sometimes it's just fun. It's just fun to go back and read and be like, oh my gosh, is that really what I was thinking? Is that really what I was doing? Okay, now I know. Now I know why I got the results that I got. So, and it just allows you to process so much.
Have you written in a book yet?
I have not. I did. So here's another failure. When I was pregnant, I had a long journey. I ended up doing in vitro. And so I had started journaling and writing about the experience of getting pregnant. And in I think my last month of pregnancy, I stopped because I just got tired. And that's one thing I wish, and I might go back, where I wish I had finished it and published it because I know there's so many women who have gone through infertility issues as well. And just literally, it was just raw, this is what's happening. This is what it feels like. But kind of also in a story form, following a format too. So, you know, that's when I would say there's another failure that I have yet to publish, but I have started many.
I was thinking about this when you was talking. Because you say you was trying to be an actress, and I was thinking about life, like right now up to this point in your life, you've acted out your whole scene. You've been on this theater, you acted it out. No, you just haven't had a real screenwriter to really put that acting in paper, right? Put it in writing. Then you have people that just somebody just put a nice screenwriter, put together writing for them, and they go act it out, right? That's probably the job you want. But now life has gifted you with so much history, so much experience, they can like, I just need to find a good screenwriter now to go back
There
into
you
my
go.
own story and put it into words. So, I was listening to your life. I was like, I was thinking about my own life too. Like, 'cause I'm 44 years old right now. I'm like, I've had a lot of experiences, both failure, success, so forth and so on. But then I was thinking about it, I was like, what am I here to do next? I'm here to I'm here to make a living out of the story I've lived.
Mm,
Said, how can I look back at my own journey, my own story, and make a living out of that story? And I think it's still possible because there's so much in there.
mm-hmm.
So how do I package it up and like, hey, some stuff you can take and probably apply it to your life, or some stuff you like, hey, let me avoid this. But looking at your own life, if you had to extract something that you could package up and give to somebody, so they can like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take this with me. What would it be?
So, like I said, I think the book around infertility, I think would be a huge one, just because sometimes I've run across when I say that, they're like, oh, me
Yeah.
too. Or I have a friend that's going through that. You have to talk to her. So I think that's a big one. But really right now, like I said, I have a big heart. I mean, I was very fortunate because for about 7 years, I was traveling the world with a company where I was doing kind of dual duty. They would have large scale events up to 20,000 people. And so we would take volunteers who would normally attend the event, but come and volunteer to work the event because it takes a lot of people to
Mhm.
coordinate all that, right? From your ticket sales, your doors, your RFID scans, your hallways, your ushers, your store, everything.
Mhm.
And so what I would do was I would go and I would coordinate and do the logistics for those volunteers. And since they were missing part of the event, which was personal development, we would do a day of training. So we'd basically do coaching for them. And then throughout the weekend, we'd just do like little mini one-on-one sessions and just coach them through whatever they were working on in that problem during that time. So it was just such an amazing experience to, first of all, worldwide, talk to people. And like I said, hear these commonalities, see how we're bonded. Like, oh my gosh, I'm in Australia. I just heard this story in Europe, and I just heard that story in South Africa, and then down the road here in Tennessee or something like that, right? And so to see that and to see the camaraderie that came from it, this beautiful group of people, they're still working together. But when COVID hit, this company was in travel, and so they shut down. And what happened, I think at the very beginning, I was telling you where I went from traveling, 12 times a year and running these events and working with people and telling people they could create their reality by, we're the masters of our minds. You're the one that makes the decision on how to react. And then all of a sudden I'm stuck at home. We just sold our house. We're in this tiny little rental. Our furniture is stuffed in it. It's dark brown, 1972 original. The kitchen was about as big as my bed. And there were huge trees outside, which are gorgeous, but the house was always just dark, super dark and brown. And I had a 1 and 2 year old running around and screaming and COVID, and my husband could still go to work, and we're building a house, and we couldn't, this builder, both of us are professional in communication, and we couldn't communicate with this guy. We'd send him an email with 3 different questions and he would just reply, yes. We're like,
Mm.
what? So, and they're not yes or no answers. So literally just had that breakdown. And in this moment, there was one day where my little girls, they were about 1.5 years, 2.5 years old, and they were just being little girls. They were running around, they were screaming, they were playing, but I just was having a pity party, obviously, because usually we don't get mad and angry. We can handle things unless we're focused on ourselves and what we're not getting and what we don't have, right? And so I just lost it on them. I lost it like a mother. And literally, I remember I screamed, and in my head, this is the thought that went through my head. Just sound so mean and scary that they look at you like a monster and just shut up. That's what went through my head. And fortunately, they were so young, I don't think they quite understood. They just kind of stopped and looked at me with these big eyes like, what's going on, you know? And then, of course, that was a big mom fail moment, right? Where I just literally was like, oh my God, who am I become? You know, and it's like, I call it my snot ball cry moment, because it's like snot and crying and tears just coming out of everywhere, right? I'm sure there were tears coming out of my ears. And I'm just bawling and wiping it all off and hugging them. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And that's, like I said, that was the moment where I realized, oh my gosh, who did I become? I used to be large and in charge. I used to tell people like 3 months ago that you don't have to react to the world. You can choose how you react. And look at me. I'm a mess.
Them little monsters got you.
Those little monsters got me. Exactly. Little stinkers. Oh, they're so cute. And so at this point in time, in that moment, I realized, you know, I could sit down with anyone, and I would love, it doesn't matter who you are, to just, you tell me your story and let's walk through it, because I know that there's a way out. And sometimes it's just having a conversation with someone else who can flip your view on its side and just open up possibility that you didn't see there before. And like I said, though, in that moment, I realized, okay, I got to get out there and help some moms, because I know I'm not the only one. And when it came down to it, at first I wanted to work with couples, and I wanted to do it with my husband. We've done a lot of relationship development and been through trainings and all that stuff. And I love my husband, and I love working with him. And I think we have good rapport and we're funny. I mean, thank goodness, because I'm married to him. It would suck if I didn't. But I just realized that wasn't necessarily his path, but I still just, I was like, you know what, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. I need to work on mom. I need to, because I am in the middle of it right now. My life is mom. And obviously it's all these other parts as well, but that's just kind of drilling down. That's the person that right now I'm just like, let me grab your hand. Let me walk you through this. Let me let you know you're not alone, because it's a lonely job, oddly, because you have all these kids clinging on you and you're touched all over all the time. And you hear your name like over 150 times a day on average. I literally Googled it.
Your new name, mom.
Yeah, your new name, mom, right? And so you're like, how can you be lonely? But it can be super lonely. And it can be, lonely, isolating. And then, like I said, like if you work from home like myself, or you're a stay-at-home mom, suddenly like there's no differentiation between work time and mom time when it comes to kids don't get it. And so it's like, I have a picture one time where I was sitting, I had my laptop, I was breastfeeding one baby, I was rocking the other baby with my foot, and then my animals are all around me too, and I have a phone and I'm on the laptop, and it's like, I don't gotta get work done. This is life as mom. And so that's where my passion is like, okay, let me walk through this. Let me give you some strategies. Let me make you feel like, okay, we don't have to be so overwhelmed. We can create boundaries. It's okay. It's actually, in fact, healthy and good to have boundaries in your space as a woman, as a mother, in your family, in your relationship. We can have passionate relationships even after kids, because I know, like, sex, sometimes we're like, whoa, what? You want to touch me too? And so, and then your relationship suffers, and it's like, well, I got married not to like tell my husband to leave me alone, don't touch me. I got married because there was passion there, and I was excited when he gave me that look, like, and I'm like, oh, hey. And so I wanted that back, and I lost it for a while too. And I know other women feel that way. And maybe some of them are like, no, I don't need it right now. But there are a lot of them that are like, yeah, it would be nice to feel like my husband and I were on the same team, and that we were in love again, and that he hears me, and that I understand him, and that we're, like we were before kids. But we've forgotten, because we're so busy taking care of being taxied, feeding, cleaning, all the stuff. And then we resent our kids and that's bad too. So like I said, if mama is happy, the whole family gets to be happy. Kids get to be happy. Dad gets to be happy. Friends get to be happy. We can create this amazing world. So
So you have twins, right? You say you have twins?
no, they're Irish twins, I guess. They're 15 months apart.
15
So
months apart.
and 6.
That
Yeah.
was like you like juggling two basketball. Like I know you was doing it just now, right?
Yeah, the
Dribbling,
one down on
dribble.
diapers, boom, done.
Okay. You said something earlier before we close out. I want to ask you about that. Because when we was talking about like the writing the book and you're saying you have different ideas about different books. But you mentioned something and I didn't have no vision of this, right? All I
I-
saw was
I'm,
obstacles.
I'm sitting on pins and needles. Yes. Okay.
Yes, I didn't have no vision of it. But you're saying that you run events.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about writing about the process of running an event? Because
Someone actually told me you should write a book on how to coordinate logistics teams for events one time.
or even a some kind of paper setup, whatever. Right? But the reason I'm saying is because like I've been in the military and I've organized events, like
Hmm.
operation, not event, operation, different things, right?
Yeah.
But when I left the military, I was like, I want to do like, because I like the Tony Robbins setup, like all those little big events, you go, whatever, right? I was like,
Yeah.
I want to do one of those things eventually one day,
Yes. Yeah.
but I have no vision of it. Like, how is it gonna done in the civilian space? I have no idea. If you gotta put me in that place, I might have a lot of anxiety.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
don't know. So, but you have done it. You have no idea that the person that never done it but wants to do it, had the desire to do it, don't know what the vision look like.
Yeah.
But you do, and you take it for granted because you done it so much.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like, maybe all of that information, all that knowledge you got, maybe you organize
Asher, I'll work with you. We'll create the program on you.
it. See, see, okay. But I figured I'd share that with you because I was I mean now I have some ideas though because I met some people. But when I first left the military, I was like, man, what am I gonna do? Like, how would I do one?
Yeah.
I didn't know where to go.
I like that. And see, this is why conversation as well is so powerful because you
Mhm.
see things and hear things that I'm not seeing and hearing, right? I know my story. I've told my story however many times. I know the
Mhm.
points, whatever, but what do you pull out of it? I maybe talked about events for 4 minutes out of this hour talk, and that's the thing that you pulled.
Mhm.
And it's just something where I was like, it's and that's why I also love coaching because you get that outside ear of someone that is hearing something that you're blind to listening,
Mhm.
right? I guess blind isn't the right word. You're deaf to hearing it.
Well, it's the same thing like somebody be telling you beautiful all your life, you never believe it. Somebody telling you what you're really good at, but you never believe it because you take it for
Yeah.
granted because it comes so easy. And it's
Yeah.
oftentimes your gift. You don't see it, but other people do, and they know what it is
Yeah.
because they come
Yeah.
to you for it. But you're like, no, I just naturally do it. It's easy for me. But
Yeah.
they're like, I would love for you to do this thing all the time, Mitch. Just keep doing it. I love you doing that stuff. But you're like, nah, so you never know.
Yeah. No one wants that. No one wants that.
Yeah, yeah. I
What did
come to
you
you all the
say?
time for it. That's what I come to you for every time. For that, especially exactly, right? Yeah.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right.
We're at the top of the hour. We're gonna wrap up. And you've been sharing a lot, by the way, and you have so much skills. No, really, your story was interesting. And I was like, if somebody listened to this right now, they're probably wondering, like, how can I work with you? How can I work with you, Mitch? How could they work with you if they gotta work with you?
Yeah. So right now, best thing is my Fun Rich Mom podcast. Would love to have you come there, but get on my email list because I will send out alerts and let you know of upcoming webinars and trainings. So you can
Mm.
do that at funrichmom.com. So
Fun, Rich.
FUNRICHMOM.com. And that'll get you on my email lists and you can find out when the next best thing is coming out.
Mm. You have a website too or no?
I have a Facebook group, so it's Fun
Oh,
Rich Mom
Facebook group.
on
Okay.
Facebook. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Okay, that's the easy space. Fun Rich Mom Facebook
yeah,
group.
yeah.
Go
Would
build
love to
it.
have
Go
you join
build
us
it.
there.
All
So
right.
thank you, by the way. Thank you so much. This was fun and enjoyable and playful. So
Hmm.
you hit all of my top notes right there, and I just really appreciate your energy and what you're up to in the world, and also for your insight. That's really great to, like I said, to hear things that you don't hear when you're telling that story. So I appreciate that you shared that. Thank you.
You're welcome at your service. And I do have a closing question.
Ooh.
I do. You ready?
Okay.
All right. Put your acting hat on, your actress hat on. What is that one thing or two thing when people do it drives you crazy? What is that? If you don't mind sharing.
Ooh. Oh. Okay, so this one's silly. Like if you leave your hair in the drain in the shower. Pick up the hair and throw it away. That's nasty.
I never heard that one before, but I can relate. I know
Like,
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
um, okay, so that's like the, now you're like, what does her shower look like? I used to live with women all the time. I was like, okay.
You gotta call the plumber. Like, we gotta fix the pipe. It's clogged up again. Why? Because all this hair.
I would say probably the thing that drives me nuts, and it probably drives me nuts because sometimes I do it too, is when people get stuck in their story and you keep hearing it over and over and over and over and over again, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
help has been in front of you. You can try something different, but if you want to stay stuck there, stay stuck there. But you don't have to be.
Yeah.
So that would probably be the thing that drives me nuts is that.
Okay. No, we know. The world knows now.
Yeah.
Yep, they're gonna come around you and whine all day, like, oh my
I
gosh.
know. Are you ready to change? Are you ready to do something about it? No? Okay. Don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mitch. It's been a pleasure chatting with you and hearing your voice and your story.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Asher. Like I said, I appreciate you and I appreciate what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you. And for those that are watching again, if you're watching us live, go ahead and put hashtag live in the comment section. Let us know you're watching us. And if you're catching this on replay, go ahead and put hashtag replay in the comment section. Let us know you caught us again too. So any last word before we close out?
Why did Spider-Man's girlfriend break up with him?
You were sticking around too much?
Because he was too clingy.
That was close. That
You
was
were
close. That was
good.
showing up.
That's the closest one I've ever had. Yeah, good job. All right.
Okay, well, but in that case, guys, please stick around like Spider-Man. Please be clingy to this podcast. Okay. All right. Make it an awesome day.